Hi, boys and girls. Okay, so obviously we're going to continue on with our guided reading for the empty envelope. We are on chapter 7 now. All right, ready? Now, what are we going to do? Ruth Rose asked. That guy looks mean. Maybe we should just give them the letters, Josh said. We can't, Dink said. The 3 sunflower stamps are still in Ruth Rose's house. They'll know we found the stolen stamp. And we can't go home, Ruth Rose said. They might grab us, and then they'd search us, and they'd find the stamp on Dink. Let's cut through the backyard to my house, Josh said. We can call Officer Fallon and tell him we're being followed. Okay, Dink said. We can't just stay here. The kids crawled across Miss Uckleby's lawn on their hands and knees. Suddenly, her dog started barking at them. Dink glanced back at the car. The driver's door flew open. The man in the green suit climbed out of the car and hollered at the kids. Let's go, Josh yelled. They jumped up and raced through Mrs. Uckleby's backyard. The man shot after them, crashing through Mrs. Uckleby's hedge. He's coming after us, Dink cried. Faster! The kids tore across Eagle Lane and cut into the woods. They hid in some thick bushes to catch their breath. The man stopped at the edge of the woods. The kids watched as he bent over, catching his breath. Come on, Josh whispered. The minute they started running again, the man plunged into the trees after them. They were faster than the man. A minute later, they raced through Josh's yard. Run into the barn and climb up the loft, Josh yelled. But we'll be trapped up there, Dink said. Just do it, Josh said. I have an idea. The 3 kids sprinted into the barn. Dink and Ruth Rose scrambled up Josh's rope ladder to the loft. Below him, Dink watched Josh. Here's a picture. Below him, Dink watched Josh shove open the rear door of the barn. But instead of running outside, Josh dove into a pile of hay. Dink couldn't believe his eyes. He's staying down there? He said to Ruth Rose. Quick, get the ladder, Ruth Rose whispered. Dink grabbed the ladder and pulled it into the loft. Seconds later, the man in the green suit barreled through the barn door. Up in the loft, Dink could hear him gasping. The man looked around the dim barn, then raced out the open rear door. Dink almost laughed with relief. He started to get up, and suddenly Ruth Rose yanked him back down. The man ran back into the barn. He stood in the middle and swiveled his head around like a snake. Dink and Ruth Rose froze and carefully peered over the edge of the loft. After a minute, the man kicked a pail across the floor and stomped out of the barn. Dink swallowed and let himself breathe again. He closed his eyes until he heard Josh whisper, "He's gone," from the hay pile. Dink looked down and saw Josh's head pop up. With hay stuck in his red hair, he looked like a scarecrow. Dink lowered the rope ladder down, and Ruth Rose climbed down. His legs felt like rubber. They flopped down in the hay next to Josh. What should we do? Dink asked. That jerk will just go back and sit outside my house. The kids sat in the cool barn and thought. Then Ruth Rose sat up straight. I think I know how we can prove Doris Duncan and O-Bird stole the stamp, she said. If I'm right, Officer Fallon will arrest them and at the same time. How? Dink and Josh both said. I need a telephone, she said. Can we go into your house, Josh? Josh crawled out of the hay and peeked out of the barn door. I don't see anyone, he said. He quietly opened the door and the kids raced across his backyard and into the kitchen. What's your plan? Dink asked Ruth Rose, and she told him. Josh threw his arms into the air. That is so excellent, he cried. Dink's eyes got big. Then he grinned. It's perfect. If it works, the stamp goes back to where it belongs, and those 2 crooks go to jail. Ruth Rose's first call was to Officer Fallon. The boys listened as she explained about the letters and the stolen stamp, and her plan. Ruth Rose listened and then started nodding. Uh-huh. Got it. Right. Okay, bye. What'd he say? Dink asked. Ruth Rose gave Dink a thumbs up. Then she called information and got the number for the Shangri-La Hotel. She dialed and then asked, "Is Doris Duncan there, please?" Ruth Rose grinned at Dink and Josh, and she mouthed the words, "They just walked in." When Ruth Rose started talking, she used a tough guy voice. Dink and Josh listened with their mouths open. "Hello, Miss Duncan? My name is Ruth Rose. I'm a friend of Dink's, and I got the letters that you want." Ruth Rose made a gaggy face at the boys and then continued. "I got your stamp, too. The one with the upside-down airplane?" She lowered her voice into a deep whisper. "And I know it's worth a lot of dough." Ruth Rose listened and then continued. "Dink is so dumb. He didn't know it was valuable. I'll sell it to you for $500. Dink and Josh broke into wide grins. Dink had to stop himself from laughing out loud. Ruth Rose made a shushing motion with her free hand. "No, not tonight. I gotta go to my grandmother's. I'll meet you in the library tomorrow at high noon." Josh nearly fell on the floor laughing. "Don't worry," Ruth Rose said. "I'll have the stamp. You just bring the 500 smackers." And then she hung up. "Ruth Rose," Josh yelled. "You sounded like a real crook. How did you do it?" She smiled. "You ain't seen nothing yet." Okay, and that's chapter 8. So go ahead and answer the questions, and we will continue with chapter 8 next. Right? Bye, guys. Keep up the good work. You guys are doing a great job.